In this episode, I'm going to share with you 3 methods to catch fish this autumn. What is up guys, welcome back to another video. I hope you're all keeping safe and well. If you are a returning subscriber, it's good to see your face again. And if you are new here, my name is Rhys and I make fly fishing videos and tutorials that will help you catch more fish. So if you would like to learn more, please press that red subscribe button and smash that bell so that you don't miss out on future videos. Since starting back on making videos, one of the questions I've had very recently is, I'm going fishing on Saturday, can you tell me what 3 methods I should go out on to increase the chances of catching fish for myself? So I thought, well, why not do a video on it? So here we are. Let's talk about autumn in general. What does it mean in terms of what's going on the lake? First of all, there's less food about. Second of all, the weather plays a much bigger part in our day. And third of all, stocking becomes more regular. When we think about those 3 things, we've always got to keep those in mind wherever we go, whatever time of day it is, and then change our options to suit. I'm going to give you the option of 3 methods here now that should cover all 3 of those things in their own entirety. So starting off with brandlings. Now I've said it many times before, you know I'm a big advocate of this fly and I really think it is probably one of the best flies ever created for small stillwater trout. So a few key things. For this to work effectively, the fish need to be in the top 3 foot of water. If the fish aren't in the top 3 foot of water, you can still fish this method, but its success will go down ever so slightly. What is the setup and how do we do it? So 7-weight rod, floating line to start with. If you're going to fish one fly, fish a fly with 12-foot leader and fish it with 6-pound fluorocarbon. If you're going to fish 2 of these, extend it. So have your first fly at 8 foot and your second fly at a further 8 foot. That's 16 foot in total. Because we've got an extra dropper in the line and the length of the line, we're now going to increase this to 7-pound breaking strain. By going to 7-pound, the fact you've got a dropper knot in there will just cover you ever so slightly from snap-offs. So we've set up a leader, now let's move on to the flies. So if you're going to fish one single brandling, fish a size 10 or a size 12. If you're going to fish 2, fish a 10 on the point and a 12 on the dropper, or a 14 on the dropper and a 12 on the point. In terms of retrieves, we are trying to target those fish that are high in the water, so the top 3 foot. With that setup, as I've mentioned, it's never going to be fishing deeper than the top 2 foot of water, even if you fish it very, very slow. And what I recommend in terms of a retrieve, whilst you can mix it up with strip retrieves and roly-polies, I have found for me personally, the best amount of success has come when you just fish it as if you were fishing 2 buzzers. So just keeping that line at the end straight. You're not trying to move the flies or give it too much kick. What you want is, you want those flies just below the surface, gently being moved, just slow as hell. And what you'll find is, the take will be like a buzzer take. It'll just rip it out of your hands sometimes. Another key thing to remember is turnover. There's no point casting 40 yards and then the fly limps over 3 foot from the line. You're better off reducing your cast to 25 yards, for example, just to ensure that you get a perfect turnover when you're fishing a single or 2 flies. Guarantee you'll have times where the fish will take the fly in probably the first 10 seconds of the fly's landing. That is why turnover is very important on this method. So I said right at the beginning that this method would work like this if the fish are in the top 3 foot of water. How do you target them when they're sitting at 5 to 6 foot of water? Simple answer is, you either fish heavier flies or you go to a heavier sinking line. If you go to a heavier sinking line, it does work, but what you've got to remember is, a slow or a fast sinking line, you generally as an angler will move the flies more quickly than you will if you were fishing a floater. That combats what you're trying to do in terms of fishing them as static as possible. Also, because you're fishing a sinking line, those flies are going to be at the right water column for a period of your cast, but not all of it. So you might find that the first 10% that the flies are just descending, the next 30% that the flies are fishing effectively in the right water column, and the last 30% of your cast, the flies have actually gone like this. So your flies are fishing well below the fish and thus fishing ineffectively. So that's method number 1. Really good at this time of year, really good at picking up old fish as well as fresh stock in the lake. Let's move on to method number 2. The washing line. Now I've done a whole video on the washing line which you can find up here if you want to see it, but just to quickly summarise the washing line. The purpose of the washing line is it will suspend your cast at a certain depth for an extended period of time. Like any of these methods, it's really about understanding where the fish are at that day in terms of water depth and then adjusting the fly line to suit. So a washing line conventionally can be set up of 2 or 3 flies, and that would be a 15 or an 18 feet cast. So you would have your dropper at 5 foot, 5 foot, and then your point fly at 5 foot, or alternatively 6 foot, 6 foot, and 6 foot. In terms of fly choice, you can go for buzzers, nymphs, or my preferred option at this time of year is cormorants. For example, 2 black cormorants, a blue one on the top dropper, a pearl one in the middle, and then either a fab or a boobie on the point. And the whole purpose really is for that fab to keep those cormorants exactly where you need them once you've identified where the fish are at in the water column. You will quite often as well take fish on a fab, sometimes more commonly than you would on the cormorants. In terms of retrieves, slow is king here with this method. Cormorants, as slow as they are, will continue fishing even if you're fishing them as slow or as static as possible. In terms of lines with this method, you want to start looking at either a floater or a midge dip. So we've covered off 2 methods for this time of year where you're presenting small and big flies as slowly as possible. Let's have a look at something a bit faster. The snake. Now snakes come in a lot of different sizes and colours. In terms of what you want to be looking for are black, white and pink. Those are the 3 most effective colours I would say for Stillwater trout at this time of year. In terms of the setup, you want to go a bit heavier. Snakes can be prone to spinning, so you want to switch up to 8 pound fluorocarbon for this, and you want to fish a leader of 12 foot with 1 fly. In terms of the line, go back to what we've already spoken about. Think about where are those fish in the water column that day. If you don't know, a snake is a good searching pattern. Start with something like a die 3 and work through the water column, mixing up the retrieves but trying to maintain a fairly quick and brisk speed to the fly. Do 10 casts to your left with a die 3, count it down different depths, do the same centre, do the same right. If you don't get anything, change colour or change spot until you find the fish. It might not necessarily lead to hookups or fish in the net, but the minute you start getting plucks and takes, you can say to yourself, right, I know that those fish are quite high in the water, perhaps in the top 3 foot. Let's put that rod down and let's present a brandling to them very, very slowly in the right water column and see what happens. Quite often or not, you'll get the fish on the brandling. So, if you would like to learn more about winter methods for Stillwater trout, why not check out this video here? And YouTube seems to think that you would like to see this video here. If you found this at all helpful, please give the video a like, and if you haven't subscribed already, please consider subscribing. My name is Rhys, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next week.